If you're expecting a quick, quiet off-season update, this isn't it, because what just happened with the San Francisco 49ers has completely shaken the NFL world, stunned fans, and raised serious questions about what's coming next. This is not a routine roster trim. This is not a minor adjustment. This feels like a statement. And whether you agree with it or not, one thing is clear: this move is bold, risky, and could define the entire season. It all started quietly, almost too quietly. Early reports began circulating that the front office, led by head coach Kyle Shanahan and the management team, were evaluating major roster changes. At first, most fans brushed it off. After all, every team tweaks its roster in the offseason. But then the bombshell dropped. Not one, not two, but five high-profile players were suddenly cut or moved in a shocking sequence that no one saw coming. And when we say five-star players, we're talking about guys who weren't just depth pieces. These were contributors, impact players, locker room presences, names that fans recognized, jerseys that people owned, players who had made big plays in big moments. The kind of players you expect to build around, not move on from. So what happened? Why would a Super Bowl contending roster suddenly hit the reset button on multiple key pieces? Let's break it down, because this story goes deeper than just cuts. It's about philosophy, pressure, and a possible shift in identity for one of the NFL's most watched teams. The first domino fell when reports confirmed that one of the team's defensive standouts was being released. This was a player who had consistently delivered, someone known for physicality and leadership. Fans immediately reacted with confusion. Social media exploded. People started asking, is this about money? Scheme fit? Locker room issues? Then, before anyone could even process that move, the second and third names dropped. Two offensive contributors, both with proven track records, were suddenly out. And now the tone changed. This wasn't random. This was calculated. By the time the fourth and fifth players were announced, it became undeniable. The San Francisco 49ers were making a major shift. And here's where things get really interesting. Sources close to the situation suggest this isn't just about clearing cap space, though that's definitely part of it. The NFL is a business, and managing contracts is crucial. But insiders are hinting at something bigger, a strategic retooling of the roster to better align with Shanahan's evolving vision. Think about it. The 49ers have been very close to ultimate success. Deep playoff runs, dominant stretches, elite talent on both sides of the ball. But close doesn't win championships. And sometimes, to get over the top, you have to make uncomfortable decisions. Still, cutting 5 notable players all at once? That's aggressive even by NFL standards. Fans are divided. Some are calling it genius, arguing that the team is staying ahead of the curve, avoiding long-term financial traps, and preparing to reload with younger, faster, and potentially cheaper talent. Others are furious, believing the team just dismantled key parts of a winning formula. And honestly, both sides have a point. Because here's the reality: moves like this can either propel a team to greatness or send them into a spiral. There's very little middle ground. Let's talk about the locker room impact for a second, because this part often gets overlooked. When you remove multiple respected players in such a short time, it sends a message. Remaining players start asking questions. Is my spot safe? What direction is this team going? Are we rebuilding or reloading? Leadership becomes even more critical in moments like this. Veterans who remain on the roster now have to step up, not just on the field, but emotionally and mentally. They have to keep the team focused, motivated, and united despite the uncertainty. And then there's the fans. The 49ers fan base is one of the most passionate in the league. They don't just follow the team, they live it. So when moves like this happen, the reaction is intense. Shock, anger, confusion, curiosity, it's all there. But here's something you need to consider. Front offices don't make decisions like this lightly. These are calculated risks based on months of evaluation, analytics, film study, and internal discussions. Every player cut likely had a detailed report behind the decision. Maybe it was declining performance. Maybe it was injury concerns. Maybe it was contract value versus production. Or maybe, and this is important, the coaching staff believes they already have replacements ready to step up. And that brings us to the next big question: who benefits from these moves? Because whenever veterans leave, opportunities open up. Younger players, rookies, and backups now have a chance to prove themselves. Training camp just became a battleground. Positions that once seemed locked are now wide open. This could be the beginning of a new wave of talent emerging in San Francisco. But let's not ignore the risk here. Experience matters in the NFL. Big games are often decided by players who've been there before. By removing seasoned contributors, the team is essentially betting on potential over proven production. That's a gamble. And it's one that will be heavily scrutinized as the season unfolds. Another angle to consider is how this affects the team's identity. The San Francisco 49ers have built a reputation for physicality, versatility, and depth. They've been known for having one of the most complete rosters in football. Do these moves strengthen that identity or change it? Are we about to see a faster, more dynamic version of the 49ers? Or will there be growing pains as new players adjust to bigger roles? And what about the competition? Other teams are watching this very closely. Rivals are analyzing these cuts, looking for opportunities. Sometimes, players released by one team become key contributors elsewhere. Don't be surprised if one or more of these former 49ers ends up making a big impact on another roster and potentially coming back to haunt San Francisco later in the season. That's another layer of pressure. Because if these released players thrive elsewhere while the 49ers struggle, the criticism would be relentless. Now, let's talk about timing. Making such significant moves at this stage suggests urgency. It suggests that the organization doesn't want to wait. They're not content with being contenders, they want to be champions now. And that urgency can be both a strength and a weakness. It drives bold decisions, but it also increases the stakes. There's less room for error. Every move, from this point forward, draft picks, free agent signings, lineup decisions, will be under the microscope. And make no mistake, all eyes are now on Kyle Shanahan. He's widely respected as one of the most innovative offensive minds in the game. He's built a system that can maximize talent and create mismatches. But with great expectations come great pressure. These roster moves, they're tied to his vision. If it works, he'll be praised as a mastermind who had the courage to make tough calls. If it doesn't, critics will question everything from player evaluation to game management. That's the reality of the NFL. So where does this leave the team right now? In a fascinating, unpredictable position.